Friends, it's been a week in regards to loot at Blizzard. I might have whiplash from the amount of loot direction changes that have happened. So let's take a look at it, break it down, and see where we're headed. First, the week started off with the announcement that Valor points are making a comeback. Honestly, I was excited. I was thinking, finally, we can have some system to offset the terrible and what seems more and more malicious loot drop rates in the Shadowlands. Then as I read further, it was only Mythic Plus. Now, this was concerning, as Mythic Plus already has a lower cap on item level than Heroic rating. And it's really only good for the Great Vault, referring to doing like your weekly 10s or 15s or whatever level you do the Mythic Dungeon at. I then found out it was linked to completing all the dungeons at set level. Now, from the Blue Post, the framework for a system that attempts to address these goals should be present in the first PTR update. Subject to ongoing tuning and refinement, gear from Mythic Keystone Dungeons is now upgradable, initially with a cap of item level 200, which players can raise to item level 207 by completing all 8 Shadowlands dungeons at Mythic 5 or higher. This will award a new Keystone Explorer achievement, while the existing Keystone Conqueror achievement for all 10s and higher will increase the cap to item level 213 and then the item level to 220 by completing Keystone Master achievement for all plus 15s in time. The currency used to upgrade Mythic Keystone gear is Valor, which is earned from completing Mythic Keystone dungeons or by doing Covenant callings with a weekly cap. Upgrades will vary by item slot and will be consistent across all item levels. Alright, so that's a pretty decent take on what's going to happen. It breaks it down. The problem is, my IO right now is 598. I run a fair bit of content, and I'm not terrible. I know people much, much higher, and sadly, I know people much, much lower. The problem is that we're going to run into the off-meta specs and DPS, right? What do we do about off-meta specs and DPS? Now, the answer we get from the forums, and the answer we get from a lot of the community is, oh, form your own group, push your own key, join a guild. Sure, those are valid options. It will, however, force some of the players who like to do things their own way or go their own way into guilds and communities if they want those rewards, as now one lucky key can allow for a stubborn piece that just refuses to drop to be upgraded. And conversely, if that key fails, then you not only need to find that key again, but at the right level, and then time it in order to unlock the ability to spend your Valor points, not Valor points themselves. So you can have all the Valor points in the world up to the cap, but you may not be able to spend them. So you run into this bottleneck, as it were. So my solution, because I don't like to mention problems without having solutions, my solution to prevent this is to tie the unlock to a specific number of runs at the required difficulty. Let's say 8. Run 8 plus 5s, then 8 plus 10s, and so on. This allows for more specific targeting of drops while still making progress on Valor unlocks. I'm looking at you, inscrutable quantum device. The second loot direction change was sadly to be expected. Any loot that was gained prior to patch 9.0.5 will not be able to be upgraded by Valor. Why, Blizz? This makes no sense. You've already capped the pieces lower than Heroic rating item level. So now, let's lay out a scenario. I would have to farm for a specific trinket again, even though I might have just gotten it, but might in quotes, because I definitely did just get it, in order to be able to upgrade said trinket once I complete all dungeons at a certain level on time. I want to be very clear here. I like World of Warcraft. It's probably my favorite game of all time, but this is not a player-friendly change. Now, I could understand it if there was an ability to buy the pieces like you could back in Pandaria and Cataclysm, and even earlier than that, but we can't do that. In fact, I remember grinding out my currency, going to the Valor Quartermaster during Cataclysm, and picking up Lightning Spirit in a Bottle, relic that is no longer around, for my Holy Paladin. It felt great. And the hits keep on coming, folks. In addition, the item Spatial Realignment Apparatus, an item sold by Venari that allows you to add a socket to items, has been changed in patch 9.0.5 to only work on Shadowlands Season 1 items to prevent players from hoarding Stygia. Again, This is a player-unfriendly choice. If I want to over-prepare, let me. Let me walk into the new season with a bunch of Stygia and put sockets on new gear if I want to. I took the time. Ground out currency that can potentially be permanently lost, let me remind you, and I did the content. Now, as a tone shift, the third change is actually positive in regards to loot. Frankly, I'm as surprised as you are that I'm doing this segment. You may remember that early on in Castle Nathria, the devs told us too much loot was dropping. We actually did a video on that. It was called Loot Shower, What Loot Shower, and you can find it on the channel. To be clear, I never experienced this, and neither has anyone I've ever run with. But the upcoming changes, with the scheduled weekly maintenance since February 16th, we intend to make tuning adjustments to increase the amount of loot rewarded in Castle Nathria, and to improve the ratios of certain types of drops. So, in Castle Nathria, bosses will now drop 33% more loot than before in all difficulties, and more importantly, especially for us wonderful DPS, that's right, live here, wonderful DPS, let me know in the comments below, weapon tokens now drop more often than before in all difficulties. 10-player raids should see 2 gear items, and 20-player raids should see now 4 gear items from each boss. These adjustments will not affect other loot that drops in Castle Nathria, such as legendary memories or conduits. Nor will there be any impact to drops from raid encounters outside of Castle Nathria. I don't necessarily agree with that, but hey, whatever. I think they should buff world drop pieces. I finally got a ring last week. Felt great. I wonder how, if everybody else got loot, if it would feel great for them as well. I can only assume, yes. Yes, it would. So this means that for normal and heroic, you get 1 piece of loot for every 5 people in the raid. Each person adds an additive 20% chance to drop a piece of loot. For mythic, you get 4 pieces of loot per boss, which I think is good. It feels good to have something to look forward to loot-wise in Shadowlands. Now, I enjoy killing raid bosses, sure, but I would like to get some loot from time to time, specifically a weapon. I think the last time I looted a weapon was the 2nd week of Castle Nathria, and it was Hungering Devourer Normal. So I have a 200 sword for my Ret Paladin. So, well, as you guys can see, Blizzard's going round and round with themselves trying to fix loot, and it seems for every positive change, there's 2 steps in the wrong direction. I personally hope they pull themselves out of this spiral and go back to being a player-centric experience first. Well, at any rate, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please remember to subscribe, stay updated with the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.